Welcome to the Confident Retirement Podcast. How confident are you when it comes to life's biggest money decisions? What is real financial peace and how can you get it? Kris Flammang and Mark Peachy are the founders of LPF Advisors in Sarasota, Florida. They bring together the brightest minds to show you how to have a more confident financial future. They empower listeners with common sense concepts and financial wisdom. And now, here are your hosts, LPF Advisors. Hey, I want to welcome everybody to the Confident Retirement Podcast brought to you by LPF Advisors. I'm your host here, as always, Kris Flammang. And just for disclaimer purposes, the information that we are going to go over is our opinion, not necessarily that of the firm or this platform. It's for general education and should not be construed as specific advice, legal, tax, or otherwise. You should consult your own advisor, tax advisor, or attorney on your specific situations in order to get the answers that you need. So with that out of the way, today I have the pleasure of welcoming Katherine Neal to the show. She is a board-certified civil trial lawyer and a managing partner of a Florida-based firm specializing in injured clients and their families. Katherine, thanks for being here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it, Kris.
All right, let's hop in. So I was checking you out online. I was not stalking you. I was just, looking at your website. And you have kind of an interesting history, kind of how you came to be where you are today. So maybe just take us briefly through that and what led you to where you are now.
Yeah. Since it's Friday, I'll give you the No Filter Friday version.
Okay.
I went to law school because I wanted to be a prosecutor.
Okay.
And then only after finishing law school and incurring the debt that comes along with law school, I realized that you can't pay off your school loans if you're a prosecutor, which is a total shame.
Yeah.
And probably a conversation for another podcast. Those people deserve probably the best pay in the legal field and get one of the worst pays in the legal field. So around when I was finishing up law school, I was living off of ramen noodles and SpaghettiOs, and which is entirely unhealthy and never going to really lead to retirement. Let me tell you, you won't get to retirement if that's your diet. Right. So I was totally broke and needed a job and found a job as a law clerk for what was then Carey and Leisure. And that was 20 years ago. And I never left.
Right. Stayed there.
And I just kind of worked my way up. And now I'm the managing partner of what is now Carey, Leisure and Neal.
Yeah, they added that name there on the end. That's good. I like it. Okay.
And the good news is I very rarely eat ramen or SpaghettiOs anymore.
Right. Only when you have a craving late at night.
Yes, which is rare.
When you want to relive the old times. I understand. Okay. So if you could maybe go back in time and give that younger you some advice, back then, is there something that you would tell the younger Katherine, something you know now that you didn't know when you were starting out?
Oh my gosh, that's such a good question. Oh, that's hard.
That's why I asked them.
Probably to just have faith and trust that somebody else is in control. That's much more powerful than I am, right? That, you try so hard to control the outcome of every day, every case, every issue that's going on in your life. And you spend so much time trying to control factors that we truly don't have control over, Yep. And I probably wasted so much time back then. And now I know it's going to be what it's going to be. If you work your hardest, you put in the effort, if you're prepared and you work hard, that's all you can do.
Yeah.
Right? At some point, you've got to give up control.
Mm-hmm. Well, if COVID taught us nothing else, it's that, we don't have as much control over our lives as what we thought.
Yeah.
A lot of it is out of our hands. So you kind of touched on this, but how did you come to choose the focus of your field of law? Was it because of that job that you got as a clerk? Is it just by coincidence that it chose, or did you have an interest in the field, or how did you come to that?
It was total coincidence. I got the job as a law clerk at the firm, and I've just always been here. I never intended to be a personal injury lawyer, right? I would probably made the same jokes that people make about us now, right? About being an ambulance chaser and whatnot. But the truth is, I didn't even intend on staying. I just needed a paycheck back then when I was, 21 years old, and I just started falling in love with the clients.
Okay.
No, and I realized it's a
Because there was something that made you stay, right?
right,
Right.
exactly. It's a really cool opportunity to get to be part of people's restoration story. I mean, when I meet people, they are going through what is the hardest thing they've ever gone through in life, almost always, right? They're hurt. They're hurt so bad that oftentimes they can't work. So their money's being affected. They can't put food on the table. They can't pay for their kids like they're used to being able to do. They can't support their family. They have medical bills piling up, and they have no idea what the future looks like. And I meet them when they're at this really difficult place, and then I get the honor of being able to navigate their journey towards justice. And then in the end, almost always, things are much better. They've gotten some of their health back, not always all of their health back, but some of their health back, but they've gotten justice. They've gotten restored financially. Their family is okay. They don't have to worry so much about their future. And I get to see all of that unfold. And it's really, really cool thing to be a part of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think I think the word you use, the transformation, it is transformational. Life changing, a lot of times people use that term, but it truly is life changing, and you're making a big impact from where they were to where they end up on the other side when they have justice. So do you think, are there some big misconceptions that people have about what you do, or maybe even like potential clients have about what you do that you face, or that you have to kind of walk them through and set expectations for?
I think those are two separate questions. First, the world, right? Yes, the world has a total misconception. I mean, everybody hates us, right? Until they need us. They think we're ambulance.
I don't hate you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. There's one on my side. People think we're ambulance chasers and we're sharks and we're greedy and we're jerks and all we care about is money and not our clients. There's a total misconception. I'm assuming it's from a few bad apples that spoiled the bunch type of thing, But I like to think that when people meet me and meet my business partners and meet the staff that we have at our firm, that they realize something quite different, that we actually care a lot about them, about their family, about their health, and that it's not just, it's not about a payday. It's about the restoration and really comforting them and confidently representing them during the whole process, right? Misconceptions from my clients tend to be what a case is worth or how long the process will take. I think in terms of what a case is worth, an injury that came from let's say a drunk driver. Say a drunk driver hurt somebody in a specific way. Maybe a broken femur, right, with surgery. That the value of that case is worth something different here than in other jurisdictions like New York or even Orlando. And so they might look online and think this is a $4 million case, and it is not a $4 million case. And so we have to kind of manage expectations in terms of case value. Probably more often though, I mean, most of my clients, a lot of my clients are really not even interested in the ultimate amount of money they get. They just need to, they're so worried about medical bills. Yeah. Or worried about putting food on the table that they're not so focused on case value. More often, the misconception is how long the case is going to take. And there's a fear that it's going to take longer than it really does. We really pride ourselves on getting people justice swiftly. I think it was Ruth Bader Ginsburg that said, "Justice delayed is justice denied." And we really, that it's really important to us to get a case resolved as soon as it can be resolved. And people tend to think that that's going to take 5 years, and it never takes that long ever. We really pride ourselves on that, actually.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So I know there's not like a ideal case that you're looking for or targeting, but is there an ideal client that you enjoy working with, or that you like to work with?
I like to work with nice people, people that I like, right?
Right. That's a good
probably
answer.
Just like you, right? You don't want to interview jerks. You probably really enjoy your job more when the person you're talking to is just a nice, good person. I want to help good people. Yeah. And I'm really proud to say that the huge majority of my clients are amazing, wonderful people. I have a heart for kids. I have a heart for single moms. And I find myself having a heart for people that are suffering from anxiety. So many of our clients are really worried about the process. I mean, I think so many people in America suffer from depression and anxiety, but I really enjoy helping a person who suffers with anxiety. I really enjoy helping them feel more comfortable. It's really cool that after 20 years of experience, I have enough confidence that I can tell them what to expect, and they feel better having somebody experienced and capable and competent in their corner. And it's really cool you can literally hear the anxiety level go down just in one conversation in a phone conference. And so I really have a heart for people that struggle with, I think, anxiety as well.
Okay. And you kind of alluded to this, but so you talked about the process. So maybe just walk us through on a high level, what can people expect when they work with you? What is the process or the steps that they go through?
Sure. Yeah. So most cases will start in pre-litigation, meaning we haven't filed a lawsuit yet. And we don't file a lawsuit for a little bit of time, right? Because most cases deserve the chance to settle without having to file a lawsuit. It's cheaper for our clients. It's faster for our clients. It's less stressful for our clients to not have to go through litigation and depositions and whatnot. So most cases are able to start in the pre-litigation phase.
Okay.
Our average case turnaround is 6 months for any type of case. Now, there are huge exceptions. We have a case that settled yesterday, and we represented that guy for 1 week. And we've settled his case already. We got as much as the entire policy limits in 1 week. We have other cases that are headed to trial that we've had for 3 years, right? But our average case turnaround time is 6 months. And I would say about 60 to 65% of our cases are able to settle without a lawsuit. But if we start in the pre-litigation phase, the client is going to a lot of doctor's appointments usually, and they're working hard on getting better or getting as good as they're going to be able to get. And then when it's time, when it's medically appropriate or appropriate because of the limited amount of insurance money that's available, we send a demand on their case, and we demand a certain amount of money for their case. And we give the insurance company a certain amount of time to respond. The insurance company responds and either complies with our demand and pays what we ask and the case is settled, or they negotiate. They don't want to pay quite what we ask, but they are willing to pay something, and we negotiate and see if we can agree to a certain amount of money that's fair and appropriate. Or the response from the insurance company might be a big fat no. We think your client's at fault. Or the offer from the insurance company might be so low that it's not worth even negotiating. So in those cases, when we can't negotiate a settlement, then we're headed into litigation. Okay. And like I said, like roughly 40%, 35% of our cases go into litigation. And that is a whole different process. Litigation is a whole different process that, like I said, adds time, adds money, adds stress, unfortunately. But sometimes it's absolutely necessary. Sometimes insurance companies are wrong or not fair. And so when they're treating our clients unfairly, we fight in the court system to get them the amount of money that they deserve, and that's appropriate and fair. And that might mean settling during the litigation process, or it might be going all the way through trial.
Okay. And when you get to that point, what do you commonly encounter as people's biggest fears or concerns, right? So a lot of times they'll meet with you and they say, well, I just want this to happen, or I'll be good with any outcome as long as this doesn't occur, or something like that. I know it's circumstantial, but is there some common thread, some things that you encounter?
A lot of people are very concerned about not getting enough money to pay their medical bills. And I can count on half of one hand the times that I've had clients in 20 years that didn't get enough to pay their medical bills. right? Like it's very, very, very rare, but it's super common fear. And so it's nice to be able to alleviate that fear quickly. But the people who are most hurt are often most concerned just with getting their medical bills paid.
Okay.
And, another fear is just of trial, of the unknown. Nobody wants to go to trial. I don't know why. I think it's fun.
Yeah. Well, right.
I'm kidding. I know exactly why they don't want to,
right.
because you lose control when
somebody else is deciding.
Yeah. Right. Somebody else is making a decision that's going to impact your life in a really big way. So a lot of clients are very worried about going to trial. They're very concerned with giving total strangers the ability to make a decision that will impact their life in such a big way. Yeah.
And I didn't even think to ask this question, but when you were talking, I thought of it. So what percentage would you say when you do go to trial, when you litigate, where you have the client that you're representing testify or speak on their own behalf? Is that a common thing?
Very common.
Okay. Or I didn't know if it depended on the circumstance.
No, very common. So everybody, almost every single client who we litigate has to give a deposition.
Okay.
Where they testify outside of a courtroom, but nonetheless a deposition under oath where they're giving testimony. And then of course, when we go to trial, I've only had one trial where I didn't have my client testify.
Okay.
Every other case, my client has gotten on the stand and testified.
Okay. And you've been alluding to this, but you really help people get through one of life's biggest transitions, or maybe the biggest transition that they've ever faced. So I know explaining to them what your process is part of how you set expectations. How do you kind of help de-stress the process as it's going on and keep clients focused on, here's our end game, or this is what we're working towards?
I think that de-stress happens the moment, literally the moment we start talking and they realize they have somebody who knows what they're talking about, right? They're talking with an attorney who has experience, who can tell them what to expect, who can tell them likely outcomes. It's just sort of like that de-stress is sort of a natural consequence of believing that your lawyer is confident and capable and competent. Yeah. It just kind of naturally happens.
Well, I also think that when you set expectations or guardrails, here's the worst thing that could happen, here's the best thing, the other outcomes are going to fall somewhere in between there. Are you comfortable with that? Is there anything that I can explain about those two extremes? I know in my field, when I set expectations with people on here's how bad it could get and here's how good it could go, people don't like bad surprises.
Yes.
They like good surprises. Those are fine. But they don't like a bad surprise where, I didn't even know that was in the realm of possibility, that people really don't like that. Right. And if you can avoid that, then it goes a long way towards, your credibility. And also they have they're good with, not good, but the outcome is acceptable because it was in the realm of what was possible.
Right. I'm all about under promising and over delivering.
I wish the restaurants would do that. I wish the restaurants would do that.
I wish everyone would do that.
How long is the wait? 15 minutes. Okay. Well, that's 45 probably, but
right.
I'll wait 30 and then I'll leave.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So I digress. I'm sorry about that, Katherine.
No, I think there's a lot of businesses that could.
It just came in my mind. So when people are looking for the right advocate, someone to represent them if they have an injury case or an accident, what do you think that they should be considering? I don't know if it's common where people are interviewing different firms, but if someone was, what do you think that they should be considering? How should they be picking that person? Because I often ask that question, like, hey, you're talking to 3 financial advisors. What criteria are you using to pick the person? Like what's the reason you're going to choose the person that you choose? So what do you think is important?
Sure. So I think there's 3 things that are really critical: experience, and experience. It's everything, right? If your attorney, they either know what they're doing or they don't, right? And not to suggest new lawyers can't be successful, but
Right.
But dear Lord, you better make sure that they're working underneath somebody who's experienced.
Yeah, the learning curve is pretty substantial.
Yeah, you don't want your lawyer learning from their mistakes on your case.
Yeah.
Right. I think it's all about experience. And if you're so blessed to have interviewed more than one lawyer that you are confident has a lot of experience doing this type of law, not a little bit of everything, then I think it comes down to who's willing to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
Right. Who's making lofty promises versus who's willing to tell you the hard thing. Yeah. I so often find myself having conversations that I call hard conversations where I have to tell someone, like, your case is not worth what you think it's worth. Or you're not going to do well in trial. A jury might not like you. I mean, you know what I mean? I think it's really important to, other than experience, I think the other factor is just making sure to find someone who's willing to tell you what you don't want to hear. Which means you need to be the type of client who will listen.
Yeah, and can hear it.
I mean, that's an important factor too. Like, not just trying to find someone who's going to tell you what you want to hear, but who's going to tell you the truth, the hard stuff, because otherwise you're not going to be happy in the end.
Right. Expectations won't get met.
What's that?
Expectations won't get met.
Right.
Okay, so let's shift gears just a little bit, Katherine. I'm curious, moving forward in the future, what you kind of see as the big opportunity for your firm in the future. Some things have changed, with tort reform and stuff like that, but maybe future goals of the business or things that you'd like to accomplish as a firm.
Sure. Yeah. There's so much. There's so many goals. There's so many goals. Number one of which is just reaching more people in the Tampa Bay area, helping more people than we currently do. I'm greedy in terms of the amount of people I want to scoop up and help. I'm always willing to hire more staff to handle more volume because I just want to continue to grow and never stop growing. Right. Other than that, we have, we're really passionate about the fight against DUIs. So one of my business partner's wife was killed by a drunk driver when they were only married for 6 months. And so I think because of his personal experience, it kind of became everybody's passion here. And that is a fight that we're very serious about. So another one of my goals is to rid our county and our state of drunk driving. I know that that's not realistic. There's always going to be people who make a really stupid decision to drive after having consumed alcohol or drugs. But we sure can be a loud advocate for securing a DD, right? Or for picking up the phone and calling a cab, or for Uber, right? There's so many options. There's just no excuse these days for drunk driving. I realize maybe back in the day things were different, but these days there's just no excuse for it. And so we're always really focused on that goal.
Okay.
Eliminating drunk driving from
I like it. I was in Phoenix last week for business, and there's an additional one beyond Uber. I was in a Waymo, which a Waymo is a driverless car.
Yeah, so I heard about this.
You request it like Uber, but you get in and no one's driving, and it's a neat experience. I took a couple of those when I was in Phoenix, but my friend and I were saying 20 years from now, this is going to be the norm where you have these driverless cars. So I heard about that. Yeah,
I heard about that on the news, and I heard about the statistic that they've had like 60 accidents versus a few 100,000 in some sort of comparison,
Right.
It's fascinating.
I don't know if Uber keeps that statistic, but I don't think you can stop it. And all the cars in Phoenix were Jaguar SUVs, so it was a comfortable ride.
It's interesting, isn't it? Yeah. When I heard that, I thought, it seems like, that's the future. We'll have driverless cars. But then I think, how many Americans really want to give up driving?
I don't think they'll give it up.
It's a pain.
Yes.
But some people really like driving.
Yeah. I think in the densely populated spots, and, it'll be a good thing because people that don't, maybe it costs a lot to have a car, or they don't really need one necessarily. Yeah. I think it'll be heavily adopted. You'll never be totally driverless all the way. I always want to be in control to some degree when I'm driving, especially long distances.
A lot of people do. I have my car is one that has a self-driving mode, and I've never used it. I'm terrified of it.
Right.
So scared. Again, that goes back to the control.
I know. Yeah. Well, it took a few minutes for me to feel comfortable. And then I just felt like it was an Uber ride. So it was interesting. Okay. So on the flip side of that question I asked you before about the biggest opportunity, what do you kind of see as the biggest challenge or maybe an obstacle that the business wants to overcome? I mean, I know you have that initiative around trying to reduce the DUIs tremendously, but is there a marketing aspect? Is there a growth aspect? Some kind of an obstacle or challenge that you want to face that you guys want to overcome?
Yes, it frustrates me to all get out that the community does not know what board certification is, and that they hire someone based on a commercial or a billboard picture rather than knowing to even ask about their trial experience, knowing to even ask whether they know how to litigate, whether they've ever filed a lawsuit. You know, there are so many lawyers that do not litigate, that do not know how to file a lawsuit, let alone try a case. They are the majority, at least here, at least in this area. And that is so frustrating because, you know, the insurance companies know who will file a lawsuit and go to trial and who won't. And they will offer less money to attorneys that they know have no recourse. Yeah. And because there are so many attorneys that have no recourse, it cheapens case values for everybody. Okay. Does that make sense? And and that's really, really frustrating to me. You know, we say I tell people I'm board certified. We advertise that as much as we possibly can. And people think that means that you pass the bar exam. Right. And that's really frustrating. And it's so hard to overcome. Like we try to educate the general public, but unless you are actively searching for a lawyer in that moment, you don't listen and you don't care. Right. Yeah. It's just noise. Right. Yeah. And that's really frustrating. I wish, and I don't know the solution. I don't know how to make people care about something like that when they aren't until they care for a lawyer, right? Until they need to know. Yeah. But it's quite the opposite as board certification for doctors. Most doctors are board certified. Most lawyers are not. I think the last statistic I heard was less than 3%. In the state of Florida are board certified civil trial lawyers. Less than 3%. I mean, a handful of females. And the general public thinks, again, that just means passing the bar exam. Right. You pass because they think of the medical boards or something like that. Right. Where you become a doctor. So that's like a constant challenge. So. I can see that. Yeah. I didn't realize that. Thank you for bringing that up. And along those same lines, I mentioned like tort reform that recently went into effect in Florida. So maybe your opinion, the impact that you kind of see on the industry and, and the clients that you serve, what's your thoughts on that? Sure. I have a lot of things to say about tort reform. What really frustrates me about tort reform is how it was implemented. Not so much that we have it, because for my firm, it's not going to be a big problem. The way we do business is when people have health insurance, we encourage them to use their health insurance. It keeps their medical bills low, keeps their risk low. And tort reform is really aimed at the case where attorneys will encourage clients to, jack up medical bills as high as possible so that they can get a larger settlement. I mean, frankly, that's what tort reform was aimed at, those types of cases, those types of lawyers, those types of law firms. We've never been that type of law firm, so we're not the target and won't suffer greatly because of it. We also are really good at moving cases along quickly. So even though the statute of limitations went from 4 years to 2 years, it's not really a problem for us because we move cases right along anyway. I mean, we would already be in litigation within 2 years of the date of the accident. So it's not so much that it has a huge impact on our cases and our clients. What was really frustrating about tort reform was just how it was implemented, because it basically resulted in hundreds of thousands of lawsuits being filed all at once in the state of Florida. To get under the deadline or when it was going to go into effect. Right. Which was really it's just really frustrating the way it was done because it's had this huge ripple effect. It's
It'll be a bog down, right?
It has been a bog down.
It slows everything down.
Yeah. I mean, in Hillsborough County, they had to issue stay orders. So basically cases that were filed got orders where nothing can happen in this case until, let's say, November, even though it was filed in March.
Right.
So that it's been really frustrating. It was really unfortunate because the way that it was implemented meant a lot of people got sued that maybe wouldn't have had to been sued.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of money was spent filing lawsuits and serving lawsuits that maybe never needed to be filed that probably could have been worked out.
Right.
And that's really frustrating. I don't know that anybody benefited from that except process servers.
Yeah. Right. And they didn't like it anyway because
they're totally overwhelmed.
They had more work, right? They can't work overtime, so
exactly.
They're stressed out when they get there.
Yeah. So it's been a frustrating year because we've had to, play the game and sue a bunch of people that didn't need to be sued, probably.
Right.
But it's working its way through this.
Like all new things. Okay. So we're getting pretty close to the end. If people want to learn more about you or they want to contact you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah. So our website, careyandleisure.com. It's CareyandLeisure.com. We also have Facebook, Instagram. We have a really great Facebook page where you can, just kind of get to know us a little better.
Mm-hmm.
But between our website and our social media, I think that's a great start.
Okay. And we'll have all those links and all that stuff down in the bio section on the episode when it posts. Yeah, you're welcome.
Thanks.
Katherine, listen, I want to thank you for being here with me today and having a conversation. It was a good time.
Thanks, Kris. I really enjoyed it too. I appreciate you.
Yeah. And I want to thank everyone for tuning into the Confident Retirement Podcast, where we're hoping to raise the financial confidence of everyday people to another level, one show at a time. Thanks everybody for tuning in and listening. Be well, take care, and we will see you next time. Thanks again, Katherine.
Thanks, Kris.
You've been listening to the Confident Retirement Podcast with Kris and Mark from LPF Advisors. For more information on them and retiring confidently, please visit lpfadvisors.com. If your ears are pleased and your mind is now at ease, do share the program with your friends and subscribe wherever podcasts are found.